I'm Paige. Welcome back to my kitchen. You're watching the next episode of my new series, Doughin It with Paigey. Today I'm here to provide my review on this book, Bread Baking for Beginners by Bonnie Ohara. I want to start off by saying that I purchased this book about a year ago, and if you haven't watched my introduction video, I just wanted to remind everyone that in this series I will be trying to bake my way through this book from beginning to end for all of my followers to follow along. I want to talk a little bit about Bonnie Ohara. She is the author of this book, and her passion for bread baking really shines through in her introduction as well as through these recipes. In her introduction to this book, she really lays out how she started baking bread. And a fun fact about her is she's actually self-taught. She started baking bread about 10 years ago, and she was running back and forth to the library with her kids, and she was purchasing all of these books that were sort of aiming towards professional bakers and professional chefs, and all she was trying to do was to make a simple loaf of bread to feed her family. She really was on the lookout for a book that was more on her skill level, and she was having a tough time finding that. Bonnie lives in a 1920s cottage in Modesto, California, and she runs a bakery out of her house. She said that she started with about 4 people on her list who initially were wanting to try her bread. It then grew to 60 plus people, and now she has hundreds of people lined up outside of her house every weekend to buy her homemade bread. If you're interested in looking at Bonnie Ohara's Instagram or a little bit more into her techniques and how she makes her bread, you can follow her at Alchemy Bread, and I'll put that in the description for you. This book does a really great job of breaking down every single thing you need to know as a beginner. Key terminology, tools, equipment, ingredients, and really breaks down each element of making bread so that you can fully understand what you're getting yourself into ahead of time. A lot of people ask me, how long does it take to make bread? Bonnie does share with you before each recipe how long it's going to take, and she will provide active time and inactive time. There are pictures of techniques in this book, so she's going to show you pictures of each process of kneading, folding, every single thing that you need to see. But what I was looking for when I first started was videos, and I just wasn't able to find that from somebody who is at an intermediate level. One of the many reasons I love this book, and as a beginner it was very helpful for me, at the end of each recipe she has a common problems and FAQ section, so you can kind of figure out what went wrong with your bread if something did go wrong, which, let's be honest, I've been there. For instance, if you're wondering why your loaf didn't brown up very nicely, Bonnie would have that question listed at the end of the book, as well as an answer telling you how to troubleshoot it the next time you decide to make this loaf of bread. With each chapter, she adds a new technique that helps you develop your skill. Each technique will be a little bit more advanced than the chapter before. A lot of people have asked me if this book really does help you advance your skills. It really, really does. I didn't know anything about bread or dough. I simply became obsessed with watching people make bread on Instagram, and it made me want to buy this book. I have gone from knowing absolutely nothing about bread to feeling pretty confident in the kitchen when I start cooking. Another common question I get about this book is, would I recommend doing all recipes from beginning to end? When I first got this book, I was so eager to cook my way through it. I really did want to go through every single recipe in order to learn every skill and every possible recipe that I could. However, I wasn't very patient, and I really wanted to get to that sourdough at the end of this book. So while I did spend time in each section of the book, I started off in the no knead doughs, and I really kind of stayed there for a couple of weeks until I felt comfortable and started to build my skill a little bit. Then I moved on to the kneaded doughs and really started practicing kneading and working with the dough. Now, if you're as obsessed with bread and baking bread as I am, or feel that this obsession is getting out of control and you really need to buy a cookbook, I, again, cannot recommend this book enough. It has helped me in so many ways. It has completely changed my life. It is a super fun hobby. It keeps me busy on the weekends. It has brought so much happiness to my life. It's also keeping my husband fed, which I know is making him really happy. And there's just nothing better than having a warm loaf of bread to share with your family at the end of the day. Overall, the book is extremely easy to follow, and I can't recommend it enough to new bread bakers. If you're interested in purchasing this, again, along with all of my videos that I'll be putting out, there will be a link in the description where you can buy this, as well as the equipment that I'll be using. If you're interested in purchasing this book and the equipment so you can start your bread baking journey, please feel free to tune in to my equipment video, as well as my intro to the channel. I'll have links to those in the description. Stay tuned for my upcoming recipe where I'll be officially baking my first recipe from this book, which is a no-knead bread. I'm so excited for everybody to tune in. Make sure you subscribe, and thanks again for watching Doughin It with Paigey.